first and foremost, again, big thank you for joining us today and exploring some of the things that we have for you professionally. Congratulations on even thinking about joining the coaching ranks or other professions in and around the diamond. There are so many rewarding things that you're going to hear about and learn about. So thrilled to have you with us. The Q&A at the bottom is open for you. You can ask any question that you would like. Our panelists are ready to jump in there. We might answer some live. We might type some answers in, but please feel free to jump on in of the Q&A. We're going to do a little bit of around the horn here to get everybody started and get to know one another. But before we get into our panelists, really want to start with Carol Brueggemann, who's the NFCA Executive Director. You might recognize her from ESPN, depending on how long you've been in. You might recognize her from her time in the coach's box as well, or from many of our conventions and events. But Carol, do you want to just say hello and tell everyone a little bit about the NFCA and why it's an important part of their professional development?
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this just amazing event. We are the NFCA, the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association. All of your coaches are a part of our organization. We are a professional development organization for anyone who wants to coach fast pitch softball. So all collegiate levels, head coaches, assistant coaches, high school, travel ball. We are a very inclusive organization. And if you want to learn more about fast pitch softball, this is the place to be. I always say we have several pillars that are really the foundation of our association. And the first pillar is really awards. And a lot of you that are on tonight have probably received some awards, whether that's an All-American award, an academic award. Our coaches, we have awards. The Fields of the Year, we have a very robust awards program. That's kind of one of our pillars. Another pillar is we really try to be a change agent for the sport. So when you think about the rules of the game, or you think about recruiting, or you think about championships, we really are the bridge between a lot of organizations to really enhance those things for our sport. We have a lot of events, a lot of them in person. We got a big convention coming up in a couple weeks and some clinics. And most importantly, we are the professional development organization, and we're all about education. And so we get to put on all sorts of events like this one, where we can really reach out to our coaches, reach out to you student athletes, and just aid in your professional development. So this one's a lot of fun for us because we spend a lot of time with coaches, and tonight we get to spend time with student athletes, and that's an area we all really love and enjoy. And I am so excited for you to meet our panelists. All of our panelists, like myself, like Joanna, we were in your shoes at one point. We were playing softball at a high level and loving every minute of it, and didn't want to let go of it, wanted to be a part of it. And now there are so many options and opportunities for you to continue to grow in the sport, to be a part of it. And there's a lot of branches now on that tree. They just keep expanding. And so you're going to get to hear from just some amazing professionals tonight. And it just allows you to keep a lot of your options open and keep your love and passion for the game going. So just a special thank you to MLB, Major League Baseball. They are an official sponsor of ours, and just a proud partner in growth and everything we do around the sport. And they're the presenting sponsor of this event tonight. So just a special thank you to them, and just enjoy the evening.
Well, thank you, Bragg. Appreciate it. And we're going to go right to our friends at Major League Baseball. Sarah Padov is with us as a panelist, and Sarah's going to introduce herself a little bit and just talk about some of the opportunities that MLB provides across a lot of different sectors. So, Sarah, you want to give us a little bit of background and why this is important for you all?
Sure thing. Thanks so much. And thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. And excited to be here tonight on behalf of MLB as the presenting sponsor. When we signed on as an NFCA sponsor, we were very intentional with the areas we wanted to be part of. And this really fits perfectly. I am part of MLB's baseball and softball development department, which is really an area that's focused on youth programming and engagement. And I spearhead all of our softball and girls baseball programming and strategy. So our department handles everything youth and amateur for MLB. Focused both on diversifying our fan base, but also together with our HR and DEI departments, diversifying our workforce. Obviously today, you guys are all going to hear from panelists in coaching and other areas of sport. But before we dive in, I really just want to give you a little bit of background about me, the different opportunities at MLB. First, know that I am a resource. I tell students this all the time, but I really do mean it. And Carol just said it, I was in your shoes, right? Played softball through college, went to Indiana for undergrad, and then went on to law school at Marquette, and coached for a bit at a Division III engineering school in Milwaukee while I was in law school, before ultimately making my way to MLB shortly after graduation. And I've now been there for 13 years. So I've seen some times. I started out in our legal department and switched over to this group in 2018. So about half and half on my career side. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime directly. And I can also put you in touch with other people in areas of interest for you. So on the MLB side, just want to run through a little bit so you have a sense of kind of the different opportunities that are out there and some different applications that are currently open. So I'm going to flag a few items for you. If you don't have a notebook or a pen or something if you're going to type on the computer, I recommend now's the time. We have a multitude of opportunities. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but I think if you think of it as two buckets, right? So within the MLB ecosystem, there's on-field and baseball ops type roles, and then there's general kind of corporate and business roles, right? So if you simplify it that way, I think it's easier to kind of grasp. On the business side, right, it's a sports and entertainment business, like anything else in that industry. So if your interest is on the business side, there's everything you can think of in a corporate setting, in addition to kind of some of that entertainment type piece, right? So anything from game presentation, marketing, social media, HR, legal, finance, data engineering, you name it, it exists in baseball and in the MLB space. And then, of course, the obvious ones from an on-field and baseball ops type role: coaching, player development, scouting, analytics, umpire operations. So again, oversimplification, but just to kind of try to give you a sense of the various options that really kind of are out there. And really, no matter what your area of interest is, you can do it within the MLB ecosystem. Between the league office, the 30 clubs, and the 100 plus minor league clubs around the country, there is a space, there are opportunities. And as many of you I know are probably interested in coaching, right? We do have some opportunities for you to cut your teeth while you're in school, whether that's high school or college or immediately thereafter. I oversee all of our softball programming. We have youth programs all over the country, and whether it's via our office or clubs or other connections we have, happy to help try to connect you as you're trying to kind of get experience and get that foot in the door and get started. Otherwise, couple of quick housekeeping, kind of handful of things. You will receive an email post-event. I don't want to give you a timeline, Joanna, so I have a whole bunch of items I'm going to share with the folks at the NFCA, and they will shoot that out to you, so you'll get all of this, so don't worry if you don't get it down now. But first, if you are not already, I would encourage you to follow at MLB Develops plural, and at Play Ball on Instagram. MLB Develops in particular is a great platform just to kind of get a sense of the work my specific department is involved in and the area that we are in a day-to-day space. Second, the window is closed for this year technically. However, for those interested in on-field and baseball ops roles in the future, so again, that's coaching, scouting, player development, umpire ops, those types of things, highly recommend you look into a program called Take the Field. It is an annual event held during MLB's winter meetings, specifically geared towards women interested in those roles. So it's a very, very solid programming, networking panels, that kind of thing, some resume workshops. So all sorts of good stuff there. Again, that is closed for this coming year, or this year in a couple of weeks, but keep an eye out on that for future opportunities. Things that are open currently. Some of you have probably connected with my colleague, Tyrone Brooks. He oversees a variety of baseball ops specific initiatives, including our diversity fellowship program. Quick plug, a recent Yale softball player was actually just hired this week as an Orioles fellow, so super pumped about that. These roles are kind of, the fellowships are kind of training grounds with really an immersive opportunity to learn the ins and outs of baseball ops type roles within our office or with the clubs. So again, technically closed, but they are still accepting applications. So the link that you'll get, you'll see it, and it will still be open, and you can apply even if you're if it doesn't happen this year, you're in the system then for kind of future opportunities. And then two things that are definitely not closed, very much open, and top clock is ticking, if you will. The time is running out. But two things. So one, National Girls and Women in Sports Day. That is the Women's Sports Foundation annual celebration of girls and women in sport. It is always the first Wednesday in February. For the last few years, me and my team, we spearheaded our efforts within our office, and we host an event on that day within our office in New York. It's a day full of panels, workshops, and networking designed to kind of expose women who are interested in getting into baseball in any kind of capacity, again, on field or off field, and more the corporate front office business type side. So a day, again, of workshops, networking, panels, that kind of stuff. That does take place in February, which I know is a tough time for a lot of you on this call, but it is open to current juniors and seniors who are playing softball or baseball, those that are coaching, and then recent college grads within kind of a 3-year time period. So take a look when you get that link. And if you are going to apply, just shoot me an email so that I know that you found out about it here. And then last but not least, our summer internship window, the application is currently open. That and the Girls and Women in Sports Day event, those both close on December 15th. So it is coming up. Please ignore the start date that is listed on the summer internship page. I know that sometimes a lot of the athletes that I've talked to who are currently active athletes, you guys freak out because it says early June as a start date and some of you are still going to be playing. Do not freak out. That is okay. Apply anyway. I promise it does not matter. So again, feel free to shoot me a note. Similarly, if you have any questions, if you plan to apply. And that is all I have for now. Thank you for giving me the time. I will be on the whole time though. And so if you have questions, feel free to shoot them in the chat, and looking forward to hearing every other panelist.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. There's one already in there for Q&A for you. So feel free to jump on that if you want. And don't you ever worry about giving us a timeline. We will have everything out to those who are on the call. If not tomorrow, definitely before the end of the week. So we will have all of that in your inbox. We're going to continue going around the horn here and just talk to some of our panelists. So first up, we have Caitlin Lowe. Coach Lowe, Carol talked about the awards. One of the fun things that we found in going through some of our bins was a picture of a high school Caitlin Lowe receiving her NFCA All-American Award from the association, and that's still one of my favorite things to tweet. So we might need to throw that out there, Caitlin. We'll keep your eyes peeled. But so the passion with softball started early for her, and she continues now as the head coach at her alma mater. But Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself. When you decided you wanted to get in coaching, give us a little bit of that backstory for us.
Well, I feel like I had a little bit of a different journey. I didn't set out in this game to become a coach right away. It was something that, I was very much so, just like Carol said, in your guys' shoes as far as the 20-hour weeks and the 6 a.m. weights and all of the things. And I just grew up loving softball, and it was my passion, and I wanted to play as long as I possibly could. And that's what I did. So I ventured out, and I was kind of chuckling to myself because I realized all of the jobs that we're going to talk about today. I think I've had each job at some point in my career until I found kind of the right fit that was going to be good for me. So started out, obviously, I went to Arizona and now coach here. But when I graduated, I continued to play professionally, and I went through this time, and I think we all do sometimes as seniors or right after you stop playing, where you're thinking about what's next. And I love that you guys are getting a jump start on it right now, and I would have absolutely loved to be on this webinar when I was 20 years old. But for me, it was kind of that, that weird limbo of what's next. And the coolest thing that came out of that, I went to my best friend's wedding, and Coach Candrea was there, and he said, you should really apply for this director of operations position that we have at Arizona. It's a new position. And when that man asks you to do something, you automatically say yes. Everybody on this call that knows him knows that. It's just like, whatever you need, whatever for the program. So I jumped in with 2 feet, and Jamie on the call here is going to be a rock star telling you how to be amazing at being a director of ops. And I am not here to tell you how to be an amazing director of ops, because I was not one. It was not exactly the career for me, but it did teach me a lot about the office side of things, the budget side of things. It gave me so much valuable information. And at the same time, what really happened is I realized I couldn't coach in that position. I couldn't work directly with student athletes. And so I wasn't meeting my passion at that point. So I sat in Coach Candrea's office and I said, listen, I love it here and I love the girls, but I just want a little bit more. I want to be involved on the field. And so I always joke that he offered me the volunteer position, which means he took my salary away to then get on the softball field. So I gave up my salary and I couldn't have been happier for the next year of my life. And luckily I was able to supplement with my professional contract, which, helps. But the volunteer spot is when I knew I just fell in love with coaching the game of softball. And quite a few people asked me kind of right after I retired from playing if I missed it. And my answer has always been no, just because it was softball that was my passion. It was never the playing of softball only that was my passion. So I was just so happy to kind of get to live that through the 22 athletes or however many were on our roster that year. So that's when I kind of knew I was hooked and in it for the long haul. I can still remember Hutch walking by me at the Judy Garmin Classic and being like, "You're in for it, man. It's a long haul and it's a tough road." And she was right, but it's also the most rewarding. And that's what she said too. So after my volunteer year, I think one of the most important things I did that year was I was in the office all of the time. He couldn't get rid of me. And I made it a point to just ask, what he needed done for the program. And got my feet wet with a little bit of everything. And after that, I got offered the assistant coaching position at Arizona, which adds a whole new level of recruiting and all of the things getting thrown into all of it. Eventually got promoted to the associate head coach and then eventually the head coach position. So I've literally taken every single step up the ladder, and there's been great things that come with certain positions, and then there's struggles with every single position. And I think it's important to know that each of those jobs is not for everyone, and to find kind of what fills your bucket. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day, is to find your passion. And the job becomes way easier and way more fulfilling when you're doing what you love.
Thank you so much. One specific question for you, and then we're going to have a lot more of these Q&As, but as a head coach, when you are hiring staff members, what are some of the most important things that you are looking for in a staff member that you hire?
So first, I want to say this is the most important, I think, thing about being a head coach is who you surround yourself with every single day. And that goes, from assistant coaches, managers, director of ops, all the way throughout your full roster, right? And so I just started thinking about what matters most. And we always lead with character. And that's how we recruit too. That's how we recruit athletes. We want high character people in our program. And especially if you're in a role that is a leadership role and you have influence over our student athletes, those people need to be high character people. And I've been very blessed in that department for sure. Obviously, you want to be a rock star at your field of expertise, and not just that, but have a growth mindset with it and always want to get better. I know they plugged the NFCA convention. I couldn't recommend it more. I think, just going there, listening to people speak, and at the same time, just having those side conversations with people while you're there is just so very important. Passion for what you do. I think, when you're on a Zoom interview like this, passion just like seeps through the screen. And, I'll use our pitching coach, Christian Conrad, as an example. I had like a 2-hour interview with him, and I think I could have talked for four hours, just because he just loves what he does and he lives it every single day. And just so important when you're going through the grind of recruiting, of a season, of all of the toughness that comes with this job. Just important that you love what you do. Low ego is a big one for me. It's really about our student athletes at the end of the day. Just, where our job is to do all of the stuff behind the scenes so that they can shine on the field when the lights come on. And I think that's huge. We have a little phrase in our office called solutions only. We say it all the time, and you're allowed to bring, issues to the table, but at the end of the day, you better bring solutions to come with it. And that goes with, if we have budget issues and we can't afford something, if, we have a terrible travel schedule, what are we going to do to bring a solution to the table to fix it? Because everything is figure outable. And it's just a matter of having the right mindset for that. And then the last thing I would say, and I talk about it to our players a lot, is just an emotional stability, a consistency in how you show up every day. It matters so much, and it's what we ask for from our student athletes. So I think it's important to really just show that to them and to show good examples of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you very much, Coach. We are coming back to you. We're going to move on to Bella Norton. Bella is at the University of Missouri right now, but has had a couple stops along her young career so far. Bella, can you introduce yourself? Tell everybody just a little bit about you.
Hi, guys. I'm Bella Norton. I am an assistant coach at Mizzou. Before my time at Mizzou, so I played softball at Indiana University for about 5 years. And after my time there, I actually went on to coach in the travel ball world. And I actually ran my own business for about a year before I figured out that I wanted to go into college coaching. And so my first stop was the University of Virginia. I'm from Virginia, so it was a really, really incredible experience for me to be able to coach in my home state. I was there for 2 years, and I coached base runners, catchers, and hitters, and now do the same thing here at Mizzou.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Couple questions for you, Bella. You talked a little bit about it, but give me more. How did you know you wanted to coach? What made that become a reality?
So I've always known that I loved education, and I've always been incredibly passionate about the learning process. And so I have 2 answers. I do come from a family of educators, and so I toyed around with a couple of different routes. I wanted to maybe go into travel. I wanted to maybe go into education. I have half of my degree in school counseling, so I kind of was just bouncing all over the place in terms of what that education looked like. And then I actually knew that I really wanted to coach when I coached a travel ball team with Nikki Andrade, who's actually now at Delaware. She's an assistant coach there. And when we coached travel ball together, I remember being like, okay, like this is it. And it was because I loved being able to teach a skill and figure out 100 different ways to say the same thing, to figure out what was going to click with that kid, whether it was a metaphor or a visual or a feel, whatever it was. I remember wanting to figure out 100 different ways to say it. And I still feel the same way now. I just have a really big passion of just being able to teach kids 100 different ways. And that has not changed. The second thing I would say, and how I knew that I wanted to coach, is there is a look that you get after you watch a kid do something they didn't think that they could do. And it is what I live for. Like I think about it all the time, every day. I want them to be able to do things they didn't think that they could do. But the coolest part after that is once they succeed, then you get to watch them do something they know they can do, and they have that belief within themselves. And that's what I strive for every day. And that's why I do what I do. And it just lights my heart on fire. And so again, started with travel ball with Nikki, and now I'm here, and really I've had the same passion ever since. So
You said that come through, Caitlin, right? You can feel it, right? You can absolutely feel it. Bella, what's been the biggest surprise on the other side of the line? What did you not expect to see in coaching?
So this one was a fun question for me because I could have gone a lot of different ways of it. But for me, you have a lens as an athlete of the feel of the game, right? Like as an athlete, you just have a good feel, right? But the feel of the game is completely different on the coaching side. So you have the deepest of layers that I just didn't realize how deep the layers really got. And you have this really tricky balance of the technical side and the spray charts and the pitch tendencies and the shifts, and then what your gut says and what you're actually seeing and what the game is telling you. And so that has been actually like a pleasant surprise. I really love that about my job, but I just didn't really realize the holistic lens that you have to see the game through, and all the different small minute things that create a win. And so to me, when we're in a game and I'm watching, let's say like the defense shift, we know as coaches that if you shift the defense 2 steps one way or the other, like that is a difference maker of if it's a game-winning hit and the ball's hit the middle or if it's not. And so again, like I knew, but I didn't really know. And so I was really surprised on just how deep the layers get. And it actually ended up being one of my favorite parts about my job. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll be back with Bella. If you're counting, that's 2 Hoosiers, but I think that's all the Hoosiers that we have. I don't think we have any more on the call for today, but we do have Megan Rimbilak with us from Meg Rim Softball. You might remember Megan from some of her social media things. You might remember her as a student athlete at App State. She's done some other education with us. Just love what she brings to the table. So Megan, thank you so much for joining us. What else would you like to share about your background and how you got started in a different kind of coaching?
Yeah, so I was kind of like Caitlin. I loved softball. Had a huge passion, still have a huge passion for it. But I like coaching wasn't something that I was like, I really want to do. I just knew like I loved the game. I grew up in a baseball family. My dad was a D1 coach for 25 years. So I saw all that he did with that, but still it was one of those things I wasn't super passionate about it. And then opportunities just started to present themselves. So I graduated 2012, 2013. I had someone reach out about just helping a high school team. And kind of what Bella was saying, it's like once I got in to the game and practices, it was like something just switched in me. It's just like maybe I forgot what it was like. It is different on the coaching side, but I started to get really passionate just about the small stuff. And Bella was saying it's just like the really small stuff that needs to be taught to the younger kids. I started to really get into that. So I only did that for a little bit. I moved around a bunch, and then 2018, I had someone reach out. They're like, "Hey, last minute, I need someone to help me run this clinic or camp." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it was like $200. I'm like, "Sure." So then after that, the owner, we started talking. She ran a facility. We started talking. She's like, "Do you want to do defense lessons?" And I was like, "I mean, I could do a couple here and there." That started to grow. And then 2020, I started a YouTube channel because the facility that I was working at, we were posting, she wanted us to post like once a week just for the facility's Instagram, and my videos were doing well. So I was like, you know what, let me throw it on YouTube, make a couple bucks. And then it just kind of took off. And I do, and it's, there's way more instruction now online. And granted, that was only 4 years ago, but at least for me, when I would Google things, everything that popped up was baseball, or it was like videos, from 1980, which they're good videos, but it's just one of those, there was nothing really relevant. So I was like, dang, I'm just gonna, and I got a lot of great feedback. Like that was great. And it was something as simple as like, here's how you hold the bat for a bunt, which to me, I'm like, super basic, but a lot of dads are now coaching who had played baseball or never played. And we're getting more moms, but just a lot of parents who don't really know. So that took off. And then 2021, someone reached out to do a clinic in Boston. And I was like, I want to go to a Red Sox game. Sure. And then other people saw that I was traveling, and it kind of just took off. So now it's, I travel the country doing clinics. Last year I did over 100 all over the country, which was awesome. And this was never my intention, but the more I do it, the more passionate I get. And it's just opened a lot of doors. I'm working with great companies now. I'm doing a bunch of coaches clinics with big organizations. I've had a couple, MLB teams reach out, colleges reach out, and it's just really cool to see all the opportunities when you kind of step out of your comfort zone and, try something new. Because talking to a camera, I don't know about anyone else, but it is really hard, even if you know exactly what you're talking about.
I hear that. And, 6-figure followers later, here she is. And it's just so cool because it is the little things that we take for granted that, so many people on this webinar do every day. And so some of them that are thinking right now, I might want to go this instructor route. It does provide some flexibility in a lot of ways. What is your favorite part of the daily routine? Or is it that there's maybe not a daily routine?
Yeah, I love, gosh, yeah, I love that I can make my own schedule, and I have an 8-month-old now, so it's been great to, and I'm figuring out a new routine, but it's been great to be with her, but also still grow my brand and hopefully starting a new business here soon, another business, which is really exciting. So it's just been really cool to kind of not have to report to anyone, but also I get to meet girls all over the country, which it's just, it's the only word that I can really use is just is really cool that one, people from, I was just in Arizona last week, you know, I had 4 clinics. It was just really cool that I was able to do 4 clinics halfway across the country. So
For sure. Very neat. Well, thank you. And we'll be back for you as well. Next up, we have Jenny Ritter, who wins the coolest backdrop award. The rest of us are definitely going to need to level up here. But Jenny, give us a little bit, for people who don't know you, your background and what you're doing now to stay involved in the sport.
Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Jenny. I have kind of a couple things that I'm doing. My full-time job is with Wilson Sporting Goods. I'm the fast pitch business manager. And that specific role, I think it encompasses everything fast pitch, from the pro level all the way down to the grassroots level. So it evolved quite a bit. I've been working there for 12 years. So it evolved a lot at grassroots level, meaning travel ball level, all the way up to the pro. Started at grassroots and then eventually collected into the college level and then into the pro. So I work all the way on contracts and sponsorships, trying to create business from scratch to really grow the business at Wilson. Wilson's a family of brands, so it includes Louisville Slugger, includes Z Marini, includes ATEX Sports, Evo Shield, and then Wilson. So a lot of brands in there, a lot to grow and a lot of work to do. They also allow me to, which I think is really great, to broadcast during softball season with the Big Ten Network and ESPN. So keeps me connected with the colleges. It keeps me connected with you guys, which is really great as well. I think the biggest thing with all of those things is the relationships that you build. And I think that's the most important thing for me was when I chose not to go into coaching. And I think for a lot of the reasons Bella and Caitlin talked about, the passion of wanting to coach and teach and all those things, that to me was not the passion that I had. Not that I wouldn't like to do it. It's just my passion and my want for a challenge of like the business aspect. I graduated with an engineering degree, and I think there was some level of technical challenge in business and things like that, that just my brain worked differently in that way. And that's kind of where I ended up kind of in a business role. And I just really loved kind of having that challenge and trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle of how to grow and how to find these tough challenges of, this isn't doing well in business. How do we get better here? This is doing well. How do we maintain it? How do we do things like that? How do we get that, that sponsorship from that tough team or that tough group or whoever that we're not able to get? Like, how do we build that relationship? So it's been really rewarding in that way. The broadcasting has just been really fun. I've been able to work with Carol, and I've been able to talk about Bella and be able to manage, and work with a lot of these coaches like Caitlin that, and watch their teams really perform and succeed and really get to watch them grow through their coaching ranks as well. So it's just been kind of a fun experience, very different from what I ever expected, but and very fun and very different.
Well, it's a World Series champion at Michigan, all everything at Michigan. We can get into it. Nobody talks about their bios, y'all, and we'll talk about it a little bit.
I hate it.
I know, but I don't. So all the things, all the accolades, right? But how did that prepare you for this side professionally? What lessons were learned that help you excel?
Yeah, it's funny. I played at Michigan. There's part of my bio. Played at Michigan, played for Hutch. And I actually had a conversation with her earlier, and she had to remind me that I was one of the most mentally tough people she's ever coached. And she's like, "Do I need to call you up every day and tell you that? Because you were. So like, don't forget that." And I think, it's funny that happened today, because that is something that you need in business. And every day there's things that will challenge you and test you and frustrate you. And it doesn't matter whether it's sport or whether it's, something that happened in your daily life, personal or business or whatever, like it's going to challenge you and it's hard. And, I tell my 5-year-old this, I tell my 19-year-old this, and I tell my husband this, like, we can do hard things. And those are things that in sport they teach you. And I think it's one of the best things in business when you're an athlete that's trying to get into business is that all of these things that you've learned to be mentally tough, you can go into business, and the people that go into business, they don't know how to handle the hard. They have not been through some of the most difficult things that sport can put you through. And I think that's one of those things that, like, how do you put that on a resume? I can handle the hard. I can handle, this mentally tough thing. I don't know how you put it on a resume, but to me, it's one of those intangible things that athletes have that I know that corporations and businesses look for because some people just don't exude that in them. And whether you call it passion or just ability to tough through things when it gets tough, I think it's so important in businesses to find a way to get through that. And winning a national championship or whatever. I mean, that's the hardest stage ever, and it can be anywhere. Anybody who's been through it, like it it could go to anybody at any given time at that moment, and I don't even know how to describe it. And you have to be the toughest one in that moment and not let the moment get too big. And when you're trying to finish a deal or negotiate, or you're in a moment where it gets hard, you have to stay the course and stay in the moment and not let it get too big. And that's a daily occurrence in a regular job. So I use it daily, all the time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on to Jamie Spitali. Jamie is at Notre Dame, currently working more of an off the field capacity, coached for a long time at Western Michigan, and then also spent some on field time at Notre Dame. And I'm sure I'm missing some stops in between, Jamie, but fill us in a little bit on your background and what led you to this path.
Sure. So I started actually coaching junior college and then moved up to Western Michigan with Kathy Litke. So we coached together for a long time. And then Deanna came a calling about 12 years ago, and I switched over, and I think I've done everything. I've been an assistant. I first came here as a volunteer. I just have always loved the coaching staff, and like I think we all agree on this panel that the people are everything. Everyone has said it. If you just surround yourself with the right people, it makes everything click. It makes everything right. And not just like the people I work with, but like the players. And like we're so blessed here to have such great players. And it's becomes family. It becomes your second family. And so that's kind of the gamut. And then last year, obviously, we had a big coaching change here for anyone that knows that. And Chris approached me and she's like, listen, like, would you possibly want to do this? And I'm going to give you some leniency. I have 2 daughters, and, I missed out on some big things. And I was like, you know what? It's the right time. And so I switched over back into this role, and, it's been surprisingly really good. So um, I love it. It's kind of like its own little challenge. And some days a little, I had to compete with myself just to keep that part. But um, I, I just, first of all, I'm so excited to even be on this. When Joanna asked, I was like, yes, let's get some more strong females into this sport. And that's what we need. And that excites me to even be able to talk to women that want to do that. So that's what it's all about. We want you to stay in the game of softball. So that's exciting. So that's just a little bit about me. Um,
Yeah,
as far as
well, and for some people that are listening, Jamie, they work with a director of ops. They have one on their staff and their program, and for others, it's a brand new concept, right? I know I played NAIA. I know we didn't even have all the coaches, let alone a director of ops or any of the other things. So, for somebody who maybe doesn't understand what that would even encompass, can you give us a little bit of background of what you could expect if you wanted to pursue that type of career?
Yeah, sure. Um, it's such one of those, like, whenever you read a job description, it says all other things as assigned. I feel like that's kind of my position. So, I mean, the big things are always the travel. So I'm always in charge of all the flights. I'm in charge of, all of the hotels, all of the ground transportation. I mean, I know the bus drivers are on speed dial. They're my best friends because you're not just booking these things, but you're, like you form relationships with them, and then they go above and beyond for you and your team. So I do all of the travel for our team. obviously I do all the food, and that's a big job. Not only keeping like the team area fully stocked, but on the road, making sure, they're well fed and fueled to be able to compete at a high level. So I'll do that. Charge of the budget. So Chris and I actually work together on the budget to make sure we're in a good place there. I run all the camps here now. So she kind of was like, okay, Jamie, you have to do this. I have other jobs. I was like, you got it. So I run all the camps. I'm like all the recruiting weekends. I'm going to organize that, make sure they're running smoothly, so that we get the right people in place that we need. I'll be in charge of the teamwork or the arms, whatever people have, to make sure that the calendar is in place, and we're really big about it, about them knowing early, because obviously their studies, they if they have to make meetings with professors or office times, we get it out there really early to them so that they can kind of work around that. And just like I'm a liaison to a lot of people, the umpires, like our SIDs, our game day operations, marketing, like all of that stuff kind of all encompasses under me, just to make sure. I think at the end of the day, I want to make sure that, like, no, the coaches don't have to worry about anything. Like, I want them to just do their job and coach the players, and that's what's most important to me. And I want them to think about all those other little things. Even though my feet might be moving a million, miles under the water like a duck, I'm just gonna stay calm and cool. And I want them to do and give the players what they want. And same thing, like, the director of ops allows me to have a different relationship with them that I absolutely love with my players. Like, they're awesome, and I can just talk to them differently, and I'm a support system for them too in a different way than maybe I was as a coach.
Thank you. One more question for you, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna to go around the horn. What would surprise some people about your job?
Oh boy. I kind of chuckle at that, because like some days I honestly feel so lucky that I don't feel like it's much of a job. And I know that's kind of cliche, but like my brothers will talk, or people will be like, "Oh man, my job," and I'll be like, "Uh-huh." But like in my head, I'm like, I'm so lucky that I, you know, can work in a job that doesn't feel much, like a job most days. But here, I think some things that are kind of like I do that, it's, and I know every institution's kind of different, but now that my role does allow me to do, I throw BP. So I can do some on-field things that kind of gives me that, like, softball part that my heart always craves. So that's something that, like, some director of ops are like totally off. You're not going to do that. Does it require me to do a little extra later? Yeah. But does it fill my bucket? Yeah, it does. So that's one thing. I would say you just become like always on call and a right hand woman to everyone, and that's something that you know um that is unique. And I don't know. I don't know if it's like a surprise, but like the greatest part is that the players and the coaches, they're just a role model for your family, for your kids. And it's just something that you can't replace. And any day I think about, like, gosh, I missed out on this, and I'm not home for her big hit that game. I just know that when they're at our games and they're looking out on that field, it's like, this is why. Like, they see people that are strong, and that they want to be someday, and it just is part of your job that is so rewarding to be able to, like, I can't you can't replace that as a mom, or for them to see that your job matters, and it's like something that is going to form them and your own children, and something that's incredible, and they're going to be strong and stand on their own 2 feet.
Kind of a fun full circle moment for you too. Your daughter committed to the Irish recently,
Yeah.
so went from being role modeled to a future role model, which is
Yeah.
really cool. So gotta love that. We are going to go around the horn, rapid fire, if you will, for our remaining amount of time. If you have something that you want to have asked, get it in the Q&A. We'll definitely give some preferential treatment there. So get those questions in. They might be answered via typing, or we might answer those live. We're going to come back to Sarah for just a quick minute. Sarah, one of the questions that we had on the registration form was about various degrees. And I feel like the people that you see come through your various programs would have a wide variety of backgrounds. Are there certain degrees that are better, or have you truly seen it all?
Yeah, I think so. I've had a few thoughts and perspectives on this. So I think if you want to get into like a very specific like analytics type role, right? I mean, you're going to need some math background, right? Like, so there's some specific things that it makes sense to have and different majors to kind of focus on from that standpoint. However, and I don't want to discount the importance of like a major or minor, right? But in my experience, the end of the day, it's more about the experience and the networking. I'm just going to say it. Things are going to change, right? People switch majors all the time. People switch careers all the time. I am Exhibit A. I went from legal and did a 180, and I'm now in an event space and a youth specific space. It is all about who you know, the experience you have, and what you're about, your general skill set, right? Now, listen, I'm not going to say, right, like, it's not that it doesn't matter, right? Like, you want to do well, you want to try to find something you're passionate about, and obviously, hopefully you're majoring in something that you're interested in. But that can change, and don't be afraid to understand that. It really does not matter at the end of the day. And one of my favorite examples, Elizabeth Ben she was recently the director of Major League Operations for the Mets. She was a philosophy major. So just to give you guys a sense, I mean, at the end of the day, she had other ways of kind of getting her foot in the door and skill set, and it just, at the end of the day, it's going to change. And just, if you're doing the right things, I don't think the degree is as important unless you're going for a very specific type of thing, like a legal job, like some type of analytical type of thing.
Good info. Thank you, Sarah. Caitlin, coming back to you, a couple of questions on work-life balance. Is it a sustainable career? You've got two littles at home as well, and a spouse who's also in athletics. And so talk to a little bit about, what do you think on that?
Work-life balance is probably the most important thing when you're getting into this profession, I would say. And I think talking to the student athlete group, when you start to go on interviews, I think these are important questions to ask your future employer too, because I think every program is going to be different with what they consider work-life balance. I was really lucky to work for someone who put family first and foremost. And we were, our office hours were planned accordingly. So if we got in and we got everything done, we felt great about the day, then clock out and make sure you're home for family dinner. If you have activities to do that day, with the fam, those came first. And there's obviously some give and take in that, but I think it's really important to make sure that your bucket is filled, not just at the field, but at home. And I think that's going to make you a better overall coach at the end of the day. And I will say it is not all sunshine and rainbows. And, I can remember an assistant coaching year where I had my 6-month-old daughter at the time. And Megan's going through it right now, I'm sure, with how young. But my mom would meet us on road trips, and she would take care of the baby. I would go coach for a couple hours. If there were double headers, you guys know the pain of that, being away from the baby, but what that means on all fronts. So then I would have the baby at night. We would travel home, and I can remember being at LAX traveling home one night, and my daughter was crying, could not be consoled. And, I finally got her to calm down. And I remember my dad was with me at the time, and he just looked at me and he said, "Man, this is so cool for your players to see." And I was like, just mind blown. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, "This is so cool to see what real life is like, that you can be a mom and you can still, follow your passion and your dreams and do both." And is it hard? Absolutely. It's hard. It's hard you're going to feel a little bit guilty on both sides, right? Like, I'm not being a good enough mom, I'm not being a good enough coach. But the biggest lesson I learned in all of that is just to be where my feet are in every given moment. So when I'm at home, I'm trying to be the best mom I can possibly be. And when I'm at the field, I'm the best coach I can possibly be. So completely sustainable. I think it is important to kind of check yourself sometimes and, understand the importance of when to be where in any given moment. But yeah, I think, and then you think about becoming a head coach, and it's way different than being an assistant coach. And there are just, more responsibilities, but also you learn how to delegate and you trust your people in the room, like we've been talking about, and it just makes life so much easier.
For sure. Thank you for that. Bella, next question for you. A lot of questions have come in that are essentially, how do I find an open position? And how do I reach out to get my first coaching job? Any advice you would give on the job search, finding out, what's the difference between a GA or an assistant coach and resumes, and just walk us through maybe what you did or what you would give advice to others.
So in my experience, I'm a very direct person, and I am not afraid to really talk to anybody. So for me personally, I originally actually it was right before COVID. I made a whole list of schools I would want to be a GA at, and I emailed every single one of them. I emailed anywhere from LSU to Coastal Carolina, anything that I was interested in. I went ahead and emailed them, even if I didn't have a contact for them. And then I actually, to be quite frank, I quite literally went on, I actually went on Instagram and found a bunch of people that I wanted to just connect with. And I asked to have a phone call for actually one of them. I messaged Sue Inquist, and she was like, okay, let's hop on a call. Let's talk. And she gave me all this advice of who I should reach out to and what schools to go to and what schools that maybe I should stay away from based on what I wanted. And so my biggest piece of advice is quite literally putting yourself out there, even if it's super uncomfortable. And I was kind of able to do that. And that's really how I've formed a lot of my connections. I think another big piece was any opportunity that I had to work a clinic with different kinds of people, or even if I didn't make money from it, like I would go to a bunch of different clinics and meet a bunch of different coaches and ask them questions and ask if they had openings. And I just kind of honestly went for it. And I was pretty unafraid in putting myself out there. And even if I didn't feel like maybe I had a seat at the table, I made a seat at the table for myself in that regard. In terms of an assistant versus a GA, GAs can't coach. They cannot coach. So at least in our program, they do a lot of like film, and they set up practice and they throw BP and they do those kind of roles, versus an assistant coach who's actually able to be hands-on on the field and actually coach parts of the game. So those would be the biggest two differences between the GA and the assistant coach. And I knew that I wanted to be hands-on. And so I just immediately after COVID ended up, eventually going into the assistant coach role and skip the GA part. So yeah, that was kind of my journey and my advice on how to just create connections.
Thank you very much. Megan, I think you're on the one in the chat, so I'm going to skip that one and I'll let you deal with that there. But just a question for people who do want to dive into your world. How do you build a client list? How do you get started? How do you find the people that you can possibly give lessons to?
Yeah. So, and I was just answering that. It's one of those, you just have to put yourself out there. Because my route was online instruction, and it's one of those, you just have to stay true to yourself. And it can be very easy at any age. And I'm 35. There's times I look online and I'm like, see all this like cool editing and all this stuff. And it's like, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, should I be doing more? But it's one of those, I got to go back and just remind myself, like, stay true to yourself, post what you want to post. And I feel like if online instruction or doing clinics is something you want to do, instead of just doing the drills, talk about them, because it's kind of like an active resume where, people can see and hear or see what you're doing, but also they can hear you talk about the topic that you're on. And I feel that's how I got the my first clinic in 2021, which I had no I wasn't planning on doing it. They had reached out because like, we love your videos. We love how you break things down really easily. So then once I went there, other people saw that I traveled. So yeah, it's just post and post a lot. You're going to get a lot of negative, a lot of negative. And that's with any role that you do. It's just doing your best to ignore it. And again, just stay true to yourself and put yourself out there.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the snippet on the negative, because I'm sure some of these student athletes have dealt with that. And, I remember one of our first conversations, you talked about you can have a specific reason for doing something with a specific student athlete, and somebody else is going to put you on blast for a reason that they don't even know anything about. So perspective is key there. Absolutely. Jenny, going back to your work, what are some maybe groups, organizations, teams, maybe people that you work with that are different jobs, different clients that maybe others would be surprised to know, hey, that's a career? Because I have to think that you're touching all kinds of different entities when you go to work every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I pretty much in my role, when it comes to fast pitch business, what's surprising to me is that if it comes to hard goods or fast pitch equipment, if you use it, we're probably communicating with you in some sort of way, whether it be through ads or directly. And so even from the travel ball level, if you are interested in coaching and you are not interested in coaching college, for example, you can create a business out of travel ball. Is it something you want to do? Maybe, maybe not. But there is an opportunity there to create and grow athletes at that level. And we have some tremendous coaches at the travel ball level that do it the right way. I'm not saying do it just to make money and make people spend a whole lot of money. That's not what I mean. We work with coaches that do it the right way. They build, they grind, they do what Megan does and really teach lessons and clinics and really spend a lot of time and grind with their players within their organization, but they do it within their close-knit groups. So they have been able to build a business specifically through travel ball. So they've been able to build the business, the coaching aspect there. We've been able to work with associations too. The Alliance Fast Pitch is a group we work with. Associations like PGF or other groups that you've probably played with in travel ball. They're all businesses as well. So they all hire people to kind of work and grow in that way. NFCA, we work with NFCA. So we love the NFCA. So it's a great group to work with as well. So every aspect of it that we're trying to work with, even pro level, when we work with new pro teams that are coming out to try to figure out how can we work with the pro leagues to grow, how can we be instrumental in what they're doing, Athletes Unlimited and the things that they're doing. How can we do things that will tie the grassroots level to that pro level, so that we can grow the sport in general? And I think that's one thing that's really interesting to me is, we're a manufacturer, but growth of the sport is important to us. That ultimately helps us. So what can I do that I am passionate about, which is growth of the sport? What can I do in my role that achieves that? And all of these groups or mini groups within it that have jobs available, and you can pretty much grow a business in softball in all those little aspects, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Jamie, a question that's not maybe related to ops, but definitely to your background and experience. The question is, does what division you play in college matter when trying to get into coaching? And I know that you had different experiences as a student athlete and then coaching different levels as well. What recommendations would you give, or what did you learn from coaching the junior college that maybe you never would have learned, without that experience?
Well, I think I learned like how to work hard. I think at the junior college level, like you do everything. You learn every part of coaching. So you learn like you're doing the field, you're you are the director of ops, you are the assistant coach, so you learn like how to be gritty. You learn, how to like be very like your turnovers every year. You lose half your team at least every year. So you learn how to recruit really well. And you learn how to just work hard. And I think not only that, but I also like would go to some of these like coaching clinics on the side, like the NSCA in Chicago. I'd go all the time. And it's crazy the amount of people that you meet there. And the other part of it is like when you work hard, you win, hopefully, like people notice. Like so you win, you make it, and you keep grinding. And I think that it's starting at that level was so valuable, and I'm so glad I started at the junior college and went to a mid-major and then went higher to a power four, because I learned so many lessons along the way. And sometimes I feel bad when they start with us at Notre Dame, because I'm like, oh boy, like if you ever have to, like, not have to, but if you get the opportunity to go and be an assistant at a mid-major, it's a different world. But when you start like at the junior college and you just like you're gritty, and I think I did one of the best things I think I did early on is I listened a lot. I listened to my mentor, and I learned so much. Like so many days I stayed after practice to learn how to hit a proper ground ball and a pop fly, so that I looked right in practices. And sometimes like she would throw me out there and I'm so grateful that she would throw me in situations that made me uncomfortable, and putting myself in those situations to be uncomfortable. Like I learned so much. Um, and I think that when you do that and you put yourself out there, you can't help but grow. And you know what? I failed on some things along the way, but I sure did learn from that. I learned from it all the way. And one of my greatest lessons also is that I learned to listen to the players. I learned to listen to what they were saying. Um, and they taught me so many things. Like in the bullpen, I would learn from them, I think, as much as they learned from me. And it just taught me then, I would go out and work camps. I think that's really a great thing to do. There's so many camps out there nowadays. And when you go there, you work hard and you're the one that gets there first, and you help them put everything away at the end. And people notice that. And you never know what that can lead to. So those are kind of some of the lessons I learned.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go around one more time. I'm going to give you a choice of 2 questions, so you can answer either one of these that you want to answer. First question is best piece of advice you were ever given. Who did it come from, and why has it stuck with you, your entire career so far? Or what makes you open an email? What makes you read a resume? How can you have it stand out? What advice would you give that way? So we're going to go back around. I'm just going to go in screen order. So Coach Lowe, I have you at the top of my screen here. Which one do you want to answer, and what do you got?
That's such a hard question. Those are 2 very, very good questions. I'd actually like to tackle what makes you open an email, because I feel like that might be even more beneficial to this group. So what makes me open an email is, obviously the solid subject line of how you're going to make us better. Boom, right away. And then the email body, I just want to know everything about you and what you're going to add to our program enhances the Arizona Wildcats on a daily basis. And I would say that about recruits too. It's the same thing. And then I would even add to that, I think your daily actions are your resume and are your interview process. And, we have one of our awesome managers on the call right now. And, he's going to be so easy to write a letter of recommendation for because of how he shows up every day. So I think just when you're thinking about, interacting with the college coaches in games that you're playing, or any, on the softball field, you're always interviewing for positions. So I think just putting yourself out there in uncomfortable situations, like Jamie said, is a huge thing too.
Thank you very much. Megan and Bella, you 2 are next, and I'm going to give you a third option because it's in the chat. Being a young female coach, is it challenging to gain respect from players or other coaches? So if you'd rather do that one from earlier in your career, I just saw that pop up. So you get a choice of 3. So go ahead, Megan, you're next. Which one do you want to tackle?
I'll take that third one. It is incredibly hard. And, I'm not at the college level, but I have coached travel teams, And, for example, I've had just something so small. I would go at the beginning of the game, it was like a 16U team, and I would talk with an umpire, and most other coaches are males, and you could just tell the way the umpire was talking to me, calling me sweetie, like that bothered me. And there's many other situations that just like small little words, like you wouldn't say that to the guy, which bothered me because it's just one of those, he was saying it because I was a female. And then right now I do get a ton of hate, just, posting a bunch of videos. It's a lot of, she's a girl, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And it's incredibly frustrating, and you're going to always have that. But like I said before, it's one of those, you just have to go back to like kind of having a tunnel vision of remembering why you're doing it. So remember the why, and just really believing in yourself. Cause like I said, it's really easy to get sucked into the negative, whether it's who you surround yourself with or what you're reading. So just believing in yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I had a feeling that one might stick out to a couple of people. Caitlin probably wants the question back. Bella, what do you have? What question do you want to take on?
So I'm going to give best piece of advice. It's actually on my laptop right now. I look at it every single day. But my former boss, Joanna Harden, she told me that systems are perfectly designed to get the results that they do. And that is something that I've totally lived by ever since she said that to me. And so really what that means is if you're creating a system, whether that's practice, defense, offense, camps, clinics, whatever it is, if you are not happy with the result that it's giving you, you have to look inward, because the system is designed to get the results that they do. And so really it was her way of telling me to continue to look inward and continue to be resilient in finding the answer that is going to, give you a better system and give you better results. And so that is just something that I look at every day when I open my laptop. But it's been super inspirational to me, because it just, I don't know, just a good reminder for me to look inward and continue to find better ways and better answers.
Thank you very much. Jamie, I have you up next.
I'll do the advice, I guess. I think like the best piece of advice I was given is to do what you love and don't worry as much about the paycheck. So I think sometimes it's easy to chase the money, but at the end of the day, that's why I say I feel like I'm the lucky one. And probably not financially in my family, but like I'm the one that's so excited every day to come to work. And I think I was taught that at a young coaching age, and it's never steered me wrong, because it's put me in a place that, I've been extremely fortunate and lucky to be at, and to make sure that you find the right fit for you and surround yourself with the right people that give you the culture and the environment that fits for you and that you can work with.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Sarah, have you next?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the advice as well. So this is not actually something anybody told me directly, but quick anecdote. So one of my first internships and first forays into working in baseball was with the single A affiliate of the Twins, which at the time, years ago, was owned in part by the son of a very famous MLB owner. So the Veeck family. If you are not familiar, you don't need to be, it's okay. VEECK. They were known for kind of outlandish marketing type ideas and just making it a fun fan experience. That was just what the family is known for. And they're kind of pervasive throughout this minor league team, and then kind of throughout everything that the Veeck family does is kind of this whole concept of fun is good, and a little bit to what you were saying, Jamie, right? Like enjoy what you do, have fun. But even beyond that, there's this like list of 12 commandments, 12 life lessons, whatever you want to call it, from Mike's dad, Bill, that appears in various books. You can Google it, you can find it. And I have literally had a printed paper with these 12 commandments, if you will, at my desk since I was 18. Like, it is currently at my desk at MLB. And, you know, it's a list, and some of them are very specific to what he was doing, but the concepts are broader. And I really like the first two that I will kind of share with you guys. So the first one is just goes without saying, but take your work very seriously, give it your all, and go for broke, and never take yourself too seriously. So I like those two together. And again, just kind of that whole thing. You can check that out on your own.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jenny, have you next? Which one do you want to tackle?
Oh, I'm gonna do the advice. I've narrowed it down. I pull. It depends on like the situation I'm in that I pull advice from. So I'm gonna go with, first of all, work advice that I want to give that I think is really important to note is no, don't sit back. Like, at least in business, don't sit back and wait for somebody to give you advice. Like, I think the most important thing is, um, if you need something, go out and get it. Ask for feedback. Um, if you want something, take it. I think there's one thing that we as women fail to do is go out and get what we want. And so often we hear that men will stand up and they'll go out and get what they want immediately, and women sit back and they wait for it, or they wait for somebody to come to them do it. Don't do that. It is hard for us to do, but so often women are paid less, they're promoted less. I can't say it enough. Like, that's just the nature of how women are. And it's hard for us to step up and do it. And I got to take my own advice sometimes, but that's the nature of it, right? Like, we need to step up and do it. So if there's one thing for the next generation to come, like, break the cycle of that. We need to step up and do it a little bit more, and break the mold and do what guys are doing, because there's just too much of a cycle of it. But the best advice that I ever got, I'm sorry, of all of it, is good is the enemy of great. And for me, that is something that I take at every walk of life. If we just accept good, we are giving up the opportunity to be great. And so you never allow yourself just to be average, just to be good. Always strive for the greatness.
Thank you very much. Bella, someone asking for your quote again in the chat. So if you don't mind throwing that in there. And before I let Carol, Coach Brugg, take it home, just a little bit of unsolicited advice from myself. We talked about it earlier about level of play. I played NAIA, and my first graduate assistant opportunity was with Florida State, and it was the biggest eye-opening change in my life. And I am so thankful for Joanne Graff giving me that experience. But the one thing that she made me do was go to every bullpen with Eve Gall, every outfield workout with Louis Burnt, everything, so that I would learn all of it. And I think we see so much of, I'm a hitting coach, I'm a pitching coach, I am a data person. And the more you can be a jack of all trades, the better off you are going to be as you progress through, because you just never know what skill set you're going to love and what's going to be necessary. And I think you can really hone those skills, to Jamie's point earlier, if you are at a smaller school or you are doing lessons as well as coaching. And so I think making sure that you learn a little bit about everything, it will really help you as you pursue coaching. You just never know. You never know where you're going to end up. And I never would have guessed my career path would have gone in the way that it went. And I just feel blessed every day to be where I am. And I know a lot of that came from just being so immersed in great programs early on in my career. So just wanted to throw that out there. Carol, I know you've got something. What can you pass along? You can do whatever question you want as well, or you can make it your own.
Well, I just feel like to all the student athletes out there, just three quick things. Number one, don't sell yourself short. Kind of goes along a little bit with what Jenny's saying, but I had so many student athletes when I was coaching. I coached for 25 years. And, you know, get toward the end of their career where you all are right now, maybe juniors, seniors. You're like, what's next? What's next? I'm like, geez, I don't have the internships. I haven't spent all this time in a job because I've been playing softball. All the reasons why they weren't ready for whatever career it might be. And, you know, the first thing we'd talk about is, let's look at all the skills you do have that maybe your peers do not, that have 3 internships, you know, 5 classes they've taken that you haven't, et cetera. You know how to work on a team. You know how to bounce back from failure. You know how to win. And that is a skill that's learned. You know a little more about time management. You know a lot about energy management, when you need to like fire it up and when you can shut it down. You know how to work with others. You know how to deal with change. I mean, really selling those things that you all have as student athletes is huge, because all of the people on the screen will tell you those are the things that matter. You can learn all the things you need to learn in whatever job you're in and whatever role you're in around the sport. But there's no replacement for knowing how to manage your time. There's no replacement to knowing how to lead. There's no replacement to work ethic. So really sell those things when you go in for a job or you're talking to people about that next move. Those are the things that I would really suggest you spend your time on. So don't sell yourself short. Sell all the things that you do have that separate you. So that's number one. The second thing is to say yes to opportunities. You know, someone may say, you know, come with me. I've got a lesson today. Can you come with me and help? And you're thinking, I don't really, you know, I don't like this lesson thing so much. Say yes and get out there and give it a try, because you never know what you're going to like. Or, hey, Wilson's coming in today and they're bringing all our new gloves and all our new bats from Louisville Slugger. You know, why don't you spend some time with them before they come out? They're going to talk a little bit about what they do. Say yes, get out there, get involved. You know, again, all of us on this screen have a different career journey, but I don't think one person has said, I knew what I wanted to do, I went and did it, and that's the lane they've been in for their entire career. Everybody has a little bit of a different journey because they've said yes to other things. So get out there and give it a try. And I think the third thing is just being willing to adjust. When you think about our sport, we've had to adjust all the time. Many years ago, we adjusted to moving our pitching plate back. Many years ago, we changed our ball from white to yellow. Just a few short years ago, some of you were probably involved in this. Coaches could talk to you as 7th and 8th graders, and now they can't. So our sport is constantly adjusting and evolving. And just like now, it feels a little unsettling with the transfer portal and NIL and all the things. And we'll adjust. Just keep adjusting, you know, just keep doing it. And you have to do that yourselves as well. Just keep adjusting, keep reinventing yourself, keep your core values, but saying yes to those opportunities and continuing to reinvent yourself are just so important. And you know, you're just coming out of college, going through college at a really neat time in women's athletics and women's sports, because you do have all these opportunities, all these experts on the screen, and so many more. We could have brought 10 more in with different opportunities to keep expanding that. So just a really exciting time for you.
Well, thank you so much, Carol. Thank you to everyone who joined. If you are watching this after the fact, thank you for listening and being a part. I would issue a challenge of put yourself out there this season, right? Whatever that might be. Introduce yourself to an opposing coach. Ask your coach to introduce you, whatever it might be. Start your network now. You will stand out. There aren't a lot of people that do that. So start your network now, build those connections. You never know what opportunities that's going to create. We hope we were able to shed some light on your questions. You can always reach us at education@nfca.org if you want to. Our office is open for you. You can give us a call. All these panelists will also, I'm sure, be happy to connect with you as long as it is permissible per NCAA rules. So just throw that out there always. And then if you need anything, don't hesitate. We are here to help. So thank you all for joining. You will have some information in your inbox very soon with some different links and things that were provided in case you didn't get all those. But it's been our pleasure. Big thank you again to Major League Baseball, Sarah, for joining us, kicking this off and continuing to be such a bright light in this space. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Thanksgiving. And we hope you have a wonderful 2025. Thank you all.